Pleasure to introduce His Excellency Mr. Drazen Hrastic, Ambassador of Croatia to Turkey. Ambassador Hrastic graduated in political science in 1993 from the University of Zagreb. Consequently, he served as an advisor at the regional department of Zagreb. From 1994 to 2003, he performed different jobs as advisor in several departments of the Croatian Ministry of Defense. In October 2003, he began his career at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as the head of the section of Cooperative Security and Arms Control. In January 2005, he was appointed as the Deputy Director of Civilian Affairs in Afghanistan. From 2005 to 2007, he served as a political advisor at the Office of NATO to Afghanistan. Until 2008, he was a counselor at the Croatian Permanent Delegation to NATO. In September 2008, he was appointed as Deputy Permanent Representative of the Croatian Delegation to NATO. In 2011, he was appointed Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Ambassador to Turkey and Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Ambassador Designate to Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Please join me on the stage.
It's my pleasure and honor to be here with you today. I'd like to thank the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy for inviting me to speak before this distinguished audience after the impressive lecture of my very good friend and colleague Milan Yazbec. I will be dealing with more down-to-the-earth issues, and I will present Croatia as study case. I will present Croatia as a country that is one of the most successful stories of the countries that, among the countries that went through the terrible war, through conflict resolution, peace building to NATO and soon to be EU member. Since I've been here for a year or so, and I have realized there is a huge lack of basic knowledge about my country. Because of that, and I've heard that we have participants from all around the globe, I will tell a couple of words telegraphically about my country before I proceed. Croatia, as Turkey, is a multi-regional country located in Central Europe, Mediterranean, and the Balkans, with the neighbors, as you can see, Slovenia, Hungary, Italy, Bosnia, Serbia, and Montenegro. We have rather small population, and as well as the territory. We are parliamentary democracy, and unfortunately our GDP has dropped last couple of years to 61% of EU average, and at the same time Turkish one has risen at around 50%. I will not bother you with the history, but Croatia Croatia's location was until quite recently a curse. Now we hope that it's going to be, and we believe that it is, a blessing. To make story short, after many turmoils, Croatia was divided between Habsburg Empire, Venice Republic, and the Ottomans. Our capital was Vienna until 1918, and between 1918 and 1991 it was Belgrade, even though almost all the time we had our parliament and suburb. After 1945, Croatia was part of Socialist Federative Republic of Yugoslavia, and of course the communist regime fell down in 1991. More importantly, for Croatia's study case is our recent history. After the first elections, we unfortunately were exposed to aggression and war. 1/3 of the country was occupied, and between 1991 and 1995, we were doing everything possible to liberate the country, and we were successful in it. Last military operation was done in 1995, but more importantly, that Conflict resolution and peace-building efforts were done between 1995 and 1998, and the remaining part of the country was peacefully reintegrated. And on the Croatian soil, we had more than 10 UN missions, and they are still considered as the most successful in the history of the United Nations. If we very shortly say about the period between 1995 and 2000, it was post-war reconstruction, and substantial political, social, economic, I would say, democratization process has started in year 2000. And it has resulted with the NATO membership 2009 and next year the EU membership. As far as Croatia's foreign policy priorities are concerned, as you can see, the European and NATO membership is among the most important, and we consider these two organizations as our community of values. Croatia was a security recipient for a number of years, and we have become a quite important security provider in practically all UN peace efforts and missions, as well as the NATO's and the European Union ones. As far as bilateral relations are concerned, we are very much focused on the region of Southeastern Europe, the Balkans, on the cooperation with the key partners, among, of course, which United States have special status, and economy. Economy is becoming the most important file for Croatian diplomacy. As far as Croatia's accession to the accession process to the EU is concerned, it has started in 2001. And it will finish in 2013. Remaining steps are ratification process that is very well underway. About 1/3 to countries have already ratified it. Integration and full membership, as you can see, next year, 1st of July. Same goes for NATO. We've started with the whole process in 2000, and we joined NATO in 2009, but we have been active in NATO operations, particularly in Afghanistan, since 2003. We have joined NATO in 2009, and one of the evidences of our full integration is the fact that Assistant Secretary General of NATO for Public Diplomacy, who is also in charge of the cultural diplomacy, is a former Croatian foreign minister. Her name is Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović, for those who had the opportunity to meet her. I have to say something telegraphically about Croatia-Turkish relations. And without any doubt, we are two friendly countries. They have strong historic ties. We are NATO allies. We have common interest in the EU. And we wish that Turkey, as far as the EU accession process will have, there will be positive steps towards the EU. Of course, we are very much focused together on the Southeastern Europe, the Balkans. We have increasing interest in economic cooperation, etc. And now, the topic of my presentation. What are the implications of the EU and NATO integration for Croatia? As I said, for the country that from the war-torn country become one of the best examples of reconstruction, development, and post-conflict resolution. In general terms, Croatia today is different country, and Croatia is different country as a result of reform processes that were undertaken because of ourselves. But these processes will not be possible, or it will be much more complicated to have them in such a short period of time without the EU and NATO integration process. As far as political implications are concerned, Croatia is today part of the decision-making process and has influence on affairs of our interest. What is the basic difference? Until quite recently, we were waiting outside where affairs or issues of our concern were discussed, and we've been communicated the decisions that have impact on our country. Now we are part of the decision-making process, and this is extremely important. Of course, through EU and NATO membership, we have institutional links with the major actors within these two organizations. And with the EU and NATO membership, Croatia has a different position in the international arena, and I personally experienced it many times. Because when we do something, or we act or take position, it's also position of the NATO member and soon to be EU member. As far as the economic implications of the EU-NATO integration process is concerned, of course, with the EU membership, for those who are coming from the EU member states, we are becoming part of the common market. And of course, this is I will not bother with it, but this is of course free flow of goods, labor, capital, and many other things, including cultural exchange. That is extremely important in the EU context as an organization, but also as at the level, as the grassroots level, as far as the cooperation among the communities are concerned from various countries. And of course, particularly EU membership means Croatian access to common mechanisms, projects, funds, etc. Security. Croatia with the NATO membership have got the best possible security guarantees. Article 5 means that attack on any NATO member state means attack on every NATO member state, and there is possibility to assist as a country, but also as an organization. And this is done on the most efficient way, because the resources that we would have developed if we were focused only on the national defense will be much more robust resources would be needed. We share resources with NATO. We have access to everything what you see: technology, training, lacking capacity, various capabilities, and it enables us to be as efficient security provider as possible. We also have some troops, about 350 troops in Afghanistan, also troops in Kosovo and Golan Heights and a number other places. And these troops have been recognized as troops with one of the best possibilities to adapt to local cultures and establish contacts and cooperation with local communities. And when you talk about grassroots level of implications, I would like to share with you what ordinary Croats think of this. And the European Union is seen simply as area with the best living standard in the world. Area of free traveling, and many of you have experienced, I'm sure, what does it mean to be harassed by various border authorities as far as the visa issues are concerned. And I went through it in the past. And of course, area with the best opportunities. Croatian people see current time of crisis as temporary disruption. And NATO is seen as a powerful organization that has brought 60 plus years of peace to Europe. This is unprecedented period. If you know what Europe has experienced through the history, and it was mostly history of bloodshed. And people think if we were a NATO member, then we would not be exposed to the devastating war and aggression as we were in the early 90s. I would like to also share with you a couple of words from my experience as somebody who was involved from day one in war, but also in conflict resolution, peacebuilding in Croatia, and I spent a couple of years in Afghanistan, including living 1 year in PRT. I think there was a question, very interesting one, about why PRTs or our engagement there is more failing than succeeding, but we can discuss it. What I have learned and trying to contribute to the title of this conference, that in post-conflict resolution, in peace-building processes, you have to have inclusive political process. What does it mean? First, of course, there is no military solution only. Secondly, you have to be ready for painful compromises and sit at the table with those who you consider as your enemies. And you have to be ready to influence your constituents, your people, to accept these painful compromises. And of course, you will always face lack of political will. And in this, I'm trying to be politically correct, constructive pressure is always needed to make a breakthrough. It is extremely important that international actors do not disengage until processes are irreversible. We have very successful examples in the Balkans, and so far not as successful examples in the other areas of conflict, including Afghanistan. Reconciliation is a vital part of conflict resolution. I have seen it in the Balkans, and I personally did not believe that reconciliation can't be as successful as it was. And spending time in Afghanistan, I also have witnessed that it is absolutely possible, but it has to be done on the way that local cultures, local traditions, etc., are respected. And I think it is one of the biggest mistakes when it is not expected. Solution of the conflict based on irreversible values and local specificities, I just mentioned it before. And what I have witnessed is the fact that institution building is the most critical issue. And in both areas, in the Balkans, in Afghanistan, and other places. If you have certain lack of political will, but process of institutional building in place, mostly pushed or encouraged by international community, you are building the basis for success. And if you have just political will without parallel process of institutional building, you have a great chance to fail. And allow me to conclude with three very simple things. Despite of the current difficulties the European Union is facing, we in Croatia believe in the benefits of being a member and the positive outlook for the future of the EU. I know that it does not look as promising today with all bad news that we are receiving, but I think that after this turmoil, Europe and European Union will be stronger than ever and more united than ever. And as far as the NATO is concerned, there are many who think that it is some of the leftovers of the Cold War, etc. But NATO has, according to my opinion, opinion of my country, an indispensable role as a security actor. But of course, NATO has to continuously adapt to changing realities and concerns of non-NATO actors. And of course, to work more to avoid perception that NATO is acting against anybody. Again, NATO is not acting against anybody, and NATO is protecting the values and the territories of its member states. And of course, Turkey, our host country, we see as an extremely important country with the perspective of playing even more prominent role in the international arena. I think I don't have to explain it, we can witness it every day. I will try to be as short as possible since we are behind the schedule. Thank you very much.
My name is Idil Öztü. You said if we were NATO members, we wouldn't be involved in war. And you said European states, since they are NATO members, were never involved in war against one another. But Turkey and Greece were NATO members, but they were involved in conflict in 1974, and they came on the brink of war in 1996 on Imia Island. And do you think NATO really prevents member states from waging war against one another? My second question is, from war period, from independence period till now, in what way did security perceptions of Slovenia change? Like, how do you perceive security threats now? Like immigration, terrorism?
Thank you very much for both of the questions. As far as the first question is concerned, of course, this is extremely sensitive issue, and I have to stay with as Croatian ambassador in the framework of political correctness. But there are many who think in Euro-Atlantic area, if Turkey and Greece were not NATO member, the situation could be much more complicated and much worse than it was. And I witnessed working at NATO for some years that Turkey and Greece can cooperate very well within these organizations for the common causes. It means for common cause it means the security of Euro-Atlantic area. As far as the second question is concerned, of course, security threat perception is changing, and nobody in Croatia today see any threat from Serbia or any other country in the region, absolutely. But of course, you mentioned terrorism, illegal immigration, organized crime, corruption, potential weapons of mass destruction, economic difficulties and crisis also as a security threat. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question, please.
Taking opportunity of its presidency in the European Union Council, which coincided with Croatia signing the agreement. And my question is, do you think that there is any potential for cooperation between the so-called new EU member states, which have the common experience of the last years of transformation from totalitarian to democratic rule, to somehow cooperate or establish certain agenda, be it on the governmental or NGO level, social level, just first to create this mutual understanding among the so-called old EU members, and also to serve as an example for countries that await their transition, such as those countries in North Africa or the countries in the eastern part of Europe.
Thank you very much for this question and giving me the opportunity to say something about it. But I think first what we have to say as far as the EU and Europe is concerned, of course, there have been many successes and good stories, but not good enough in terms of inclusiveness, various cultures, which are extremely important for social integration of all the communities. And of course, in some European countries, there are problems related to the lack of integration and related to the efforts that were more focused on assimilation than integration. I think there are very positive. There are good intentions to change it, and actually, it's a necessity. As far as the so-called new EU member states and old EU member states are concerned, I think that EU member states, the new EU member states, definitely can provide, can be some kind of the bridge with the non-EU actors. In various areas, particularly because these countries at the moment have direct experience in transition from, as you said, totalitarian regimes to democracy, but also social transition, economic transition, etc. That I don't want to now bother you with, and also I don't want to be politically incorrect, but new member states, I think, have learned from the mistakes, and they don't want to repeat mistakes that have been done in so-called old member states. And there are very good examples. It means Turkey and Spain have extremely important project of cultural civilizations, and smaller countries like Croatia also trying to do something. This summer we tried to bring leaders from the whole Mediterranean area, including southern Mediterranean countries that were impacted by so-called Arab Spring, exactly to discuss this issue. How to exchange views and help each other in terms of conflict resolution, peace building, but also cultural exchange that is one of the basis for future substantially good cooperation. It cannot be only politics economy. If we don't know each other, we don't accept each other, we don't understand each other, we cannot have a healthy basis for cooperation in other fields.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. The gentleman in the fourth row, please.
Moritz Pösch, student at Witten-Herdecke University, Germany. I just had one comment. Maybe when being in Zagreb, I had the feeling that the grassroots situation is not so coherent, maybe as you presented it. I think there are maybe many people who find it as a relief, to have the possibility to go into the EU. On the other hand, this integration probably also stops processes of finding a shape, culturally for Croatia that have been started before. So how to combine these two, and maybe what is Croatia going to do in the EU or with the EU in the future?
Thank you very much for the question. If I understood it correctly, as far as the Croatian coherence of Croatian opinion of the Croatian people on the EU and NATO. Of course, Croatia went through various processes, some blockages, some criteria that have not been asked ever before, and some delays and some misunderstanding by the European Union about possibilities to act and perform. It means all requests by the EU were completely rightful and correct and extremely good for Croatia, but timing was not always well settled. When additional criteria were imposed, or some feeling that we're not treated fair, and we are here among Turkish friends, they know what does it mean. Then support has dropped. Support from 76% at one moment has dropped below 50%. But we had a referendum, and 2/3 of the Croatian people voted for the EU membership, and I think it is extremely strong sign of the Croatian citizens, of the wish of Croatian citizens. And in every democracy, is it membership, is it elections, etc., if you have huge majority for something, usually something is wrong. And of course, the same goes for EU and NATO membership. Who are these people who are not so in favor? You have two groups: young people that you most probably met, it corresponded with a crisis and with some opportunity that they felt they have, and that at the moment they are not accessible. And so-called sovereigntists, that we regain our independence after almost 100 years, and now they have feeling we are giving it up again after 20 plus years of independence. As far as the Croatia and the EU, what we are going to do as with NATO and other, we will try to be as good member as possible. Not only be focused on how to take something from the EU, but also how to give. These are the healthy basis for good performance within the organization, within the integration, and we have already proved it. Within NATO. I'm not trying to, paint rosy picture, but what I have told, this is the basic things, and this is absolutely, we can call mainstream, and the huge majority of people what they think. And on top of everything, in time of economic crisis, and Croatia is unfortunately being hit by economic crisis as many other European states, then you have to streamline and focus your unhappiness or frustration, and then you usually focus it on the actors, organizations that you see as seen as bright future immediately, and it is not happening. That's usually behind it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That officially ends our morning session. I'd like to thank His Excellency for this presentation, and of course the participants for their excellent input.